And we are back on the Rodriguez Show, and we have our only guest for this episode. He is going to be performing tonight at La Santa Darkwave Halloween. We'll talk about it in detail. This is Dôrmencē. What's up, man?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making the drive out here. I'm very excited. When I started following you, I really liked the style of music that you DJ. And so we had to get you on the show to promote your event, man.
Cool. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. So you've been, performing in Orange County for years. You just were at an event in downtown Santa Ana that was like a gothic cumbia event.
That's
How was
right.
that?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So it's put together by good friends Los Goths Co. out in Los Angeles and Cumbia Fever. And basically, I think this was the fifth one over the run of maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And it's a cool combination of just getting a bunch of people out that, are nostalgic for their, cumbia roots from the parents, and with the, newer take on what we like to listen to and go out and club and dance to, which is dark wave, goth, and all that stuff. So super interesting. It's basically Cumbia Fever and Los Goths. They each bring their own set of DJs. Mm-hmm. Cumbia Fever brings theirs. Los Goths brings theirs. And so we play everything from cumbias rebajadas, post-punk, rock en español, dark wave, goth, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in the past few years, I've really gotten into cumbia, and there is like a specific kind of cumbia that's like the more modern one that has those like darker wave vibes in it. Do you see a connection there?
Absolutely. So like when like psychedelic and cumbia rebajada kind of start taking over, or like coming on to like the modern age, basically cumbia bands kind of left behind like accordions and picked up guitars, and then eventually it evolved into just synthesizers and just software programming and stuff like that. So it just got more electronic.
Yeah.
And which let you add more effects, get a little spookier with the sounds, pitch it down, all that good stuff.
Nice. Yeah, it's so cool, man. And it's cool that like those genres, like they said, they intertwine. And so, take us back to the beginning of you getting started with DJing. When did you decide you wanted to do that?
Probably about 2 years ago, actually. Probably about 2 years ago, around this time, 2021, I had left this job that I had. It was like at some like investment company. And basically, I wanted to go out and explore just creative avenues. DJing wasn't the first one. I've always been attracted to like symbolism and like mysticism and all that stuff. So I kind of got into like reading tarot cards, and after that, I got into tattooing. I would tattoo here, and at the same time, that same year, I was traveling to Mexico quite often, and so I was doing tattoos here, back home in Orange County, and then in Mexico. And I loved it, but I eventually realized that it's kind of hard on your back. And I picked it up pretty quick, but it would still, demand a couple of hours from me. And so after that, I was like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. And so I just basically picked up like a DJ controller, and I always had a passion and love for like funk music and goth music. And I realized that they were both using synthesizers, both from like kind of the same period in the 80s, and I was like, how interesting would it be to just kind of blend it, just to get this sound out of my head, right? Mm-hmm. So just kind of out of the living room, just started blending them, and eventually wanted to get a little more serious with it. I mean, I didn't have any like gigs or anything like that. At the time, I was actually living in Riverside, and so I upgraded to another controller where I would have like professional XLR outputs, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was living in Riverside, and then I started, teaching myself how to beat match and all of that before I decided, you know what, like I feel like I'm so new. I don't really have a name for myself out here. I'm just going to pack my controller and just go to Mexico. And with the intention of plugging in with the goth and dark wave scene out in Mexico, building connections with, the artists out there and stuff like that. And that was basically where my journey started.
Wow. How long were you in Mexico before coming back?
So I started going at the beginning of I guess middle of 2021, and I didn't actually get connected with the scene out there till around November of 2021. All the way down to Oaxaca. I want to go see two of my favorite artists, Baisos Cuerpos and Mementut. They were doing a show together down in Oaxaca, and I've never been down there before. My family's from Mexico City, so I'd been there plenty. Mm-hmm. So I made my way down to Oaxaca with two cousins, and I brought my controller. We did a lot of exploring, but like the kind of main thing was to go to this gig, right? And so after that, after like the band's played and everything, I went up and introduced myself, and basically, yeah, just kind of exchange information with some of the band members and stayed in contact for a couple of weeks before they invited me out to play my first show, which was out in Puebla around like mid-December.
Oh, wow. How did you feel at that point? Like, you were like, all right, I have my skills, because at that point you'd been doing it for almost a year, right?
Well, yeah, but never in front of anybody, really.
Oh, okay.
It was just really just more in the kitchen stuff. And I would always play what I thought was mostly like obscure post-punk. So it wasn't like the stuff you would normally hear at like your goth clubs and stuff like that. A lot of international artists, people from Ukraine, just all over the world, really. And so I went out there with the intention of just kind of like playing, like, I guess what I love, but also like playing with artists that I love. So yeah, it was just luckily the first gig that I did out in Puebla, they liked what I was playing and they recognized some of these what I thought were obscure artists. And little did I find out that like a lot of people in Mexico listen to a lot of Russian post-punk. They're huge on it. And so they recognize a lot of stuff, and then basically from there on, they're like, "Oh, I can't believe you know that artist. You play that artist. Nobody plays them. Let's play another show in Mexico City." And I said, "Okay, cool. It's a lot closer for like me and my family, you know."
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's just kind of how the journey started out in Oaxaca. First show was in Puebla, and then after that, since they heard me play, the bands kept inviting me back. So I would fly back like 2 times a month from basically December 2021 till like April 2022.
Damn.
I'd fly back twice a month just to kind of get exposure out there and meet more bands. And every time I would go, I would get introduced to other bands that were in the underground scene, and I would just discover more and more music. And so yeah, I was just super blessed and thankful for that.
That's so cool that you're able to find that scene and see it flourish too, as you see so many people grow and network with so many bands. How did you? Well, before I even move on to doing the stuff here, how did you come up with your name?
It was kind of like accumulation of a lot of things that were like dormant within inside me. So like that's kind of where the name comes from, Dôrmencē. It's really a combination of what a tarot card reader is, what they're called is a cartomancer. So like that mancer part like really stuck with me. And also like plants go into this dormant state where they're sleeping. They look like they're dead on the surface, but they're conserving their energy at the roots. So it was a combination of both of those words that I thought, you know what, I feel like the goth music genre and scene at the time was very dormant, but it was getting ready for its next phase. So I just adopted that name. I was like, I fuck with that. And I always had it in the back of my head, like, people just need to share more music, put more music out there, and just not be afraid to travel to like push the scene to its next level. So
dang. Wow. And so then when did you start doing events here in Orange County?
I guess I'm about a year anniversary. My very first event was October 1st of 2022. So at the end of me flying back and forth to Mexico City to play a bunch of shows out there, I basically came back and I was like, okay, like, I need to get more online presence so I can get booked out here, right? Back home. And so I started with YouTube, and I found out really quick that it was really difficult to, gain an audience, and you can't just drop DJ sets and expect people to just follow you. And so I went to the thing that was just popping at the time, which is TikTok. And so I started just trying to find my rhythm on TikTok, talking about bands. I just started with easy things like influential bands that were influential to me, right? Songs that I kind of had heard growing up or that were popular at the time. And I would try to give like a little bit backstory, whatever I can find online. And, if I can get any directly from the source, I would just kind of make like little series of just people or bands or songs that were influential and that I would just always come across. And then I started getting a little bit deeper and started talking about bands that like the obscure bands that I liked. And so I kind of just went on a tangent with that, with just goth and dark wave music, a lot of the modern stuff that I was hearing, and a lot of stuff that's been out for a long time, but no one's kind of had really discovered.
Yeah, I think that's how I discovered you. I saw a YouTube short that where you talking about like a song that you knew about.
Yeah, so I mean, I really went heavy on researching like the whole social media game, and not just one platform, but every platform. I was like, okay, like everyone's trying to follow like the leader, the spearhead right now, which is TikTok. And so like I would I would screen record before I posted it on TikTok. That way I had the whole video already, and I would just go post that on Instagram, go post it on YouTube, Pinterest, even just like all of these different platforms to just like get the reach out there, you know? And yeah, this is kind of how I just develop, I guess, my strategy on like how to get the maximum exposure for, you know, how new I was.
Yeah, it's part of it. I mean, as much as there is a creative side, there's also like, okay, the exposure part and the marketing yourself. And that's like a whole other job for an artist too.
Absolutely.
So when you started doing events here, did you see, how was the reception at first? Did you see the scene grow, or was there already a lot of people there that, you know, took up the opportunity to come?
In Orange County, there wasn't really a huge scene per se. I knew about like a little pocket in Santa Ana that would host goth events. I would go and dance. I would go by myself because I used to live there around 2014, 2015 in downtown. But it wasn't a very inviting scene, you know. It wasn't very like open. Sure, people would let you dance or whatever, but like when you try to engage with people, they were just like not kind of a little more closed off. Yeah. Which is fine, whatever, you know. But so when I started doing events in Orange County, I kind of had already grown a name for myself for introducing bands, especially talking about a lot of bands from Mexico, because again, that's where my roots are, where I got started as a DJ. I started introducing and plugging in a lot of those bands out here. And so I started giving more details and, you know, firsthand, just like knowledge of what I had heard. And so, especially here in LA, it started really booming. As you know, again, talking back about like, you know, being nostalgic about with cumbia and Latin music. Well, people wanted to discover more Latin American, Mexican artists because a lot of people, you know, won't travel to Mexico. Yeah. And so, let alone travel like just different counties, you know. But and so for me, being accessible and talking about these bands, I think it really gained like popularity and getting a lot of traction to where people really appreciated that. Yeah. Like people were able to connect and just realize that, hey, like that could literally be my cousin just like making music out there and he's making really cool stuff, you know, like things like that. And so by the time I came back, like around like April, May-ish, I had like very few gigs through the summer. And then that's when I decided just to kind of host my own event.
Nice. And now you've done multiple ones since then, and you have one coming up tonight, Dark Wave Halloween in Santa Ana. And before we even talk about that, it's just so cool that you're able to, isn't it feel good to be able to express yourself creatively and also put on other people that are also doing the same thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I kind of started hearing that from like the kind of the beginning, just people DMing me and just thanking me for like introducing them to music. And what I would also do on TikTok is just live stream DJ sets. And so people would discover music, and whenever I would finish those live streams, I would download those whole sessions and then upload them to YouTube so they're accessible again. Yeah, you know,
that's cool. Yeah, so you're not the only one DJing tonight at La Santa. There's also going to be an act. You want to talk about the Arizona Dark Wave band?
Yeah. So this band called Corbo Hangs, also from I believe Mexican descent. Really kind of recent band. They've maybe been around for, I don't know exactly, but I think a year to a year and a half. And they actually one of my patrons, I guess you can say, the person that always comes to all of my events, he put me onto them and said, hey, you should check these people out. Funny thing enough, another follower of mine sent me their music, but when they had a different name, and I just didn't connect it until recently. But so that's kind of how I discovered them. He came to one of my events and he said, check this band out. Obviously, I was at La Santa at a different event of mine, so I couldn't listen to it. So I was like, okay, let me screenshot. I'll listen to it later. And then I heard some of their stuff, and they had maybe like 2 or 3 songs out, and I was like, wow, like this is really good stuff. Nice. So I immediately got in contact with them, and we lined up that show for tonight at La Santa. Corbo Hangs. They just released their first debut album this past Friday. Nice.
And then also DJing Victor Vuk, who's been on the show in the past. He actually manages and used to help out and produce for a couple of dark wave inspired hip hop artists that we've had on the show years ago.
I didn't know that. He's been on here. That's cool.
Yeah. I didn't realize that he did. I was looking at the details. Like, oh, shout out to him. Yeah. So what else do you want people to know about tonight's event?
Well, tonight's event is going to be a celebration of Halloween. And
your birthday, right?
And my birthday as well.
Fire.
So I mean, usually, I mean, I'm kind of going back to my roots here for this Halloween show, because my very first show was a Halloween show. I had one band and I DJed the whole night before and after. And then since then, I've done different kind of events with like 3 to 4 bands, and to just explore different formulas. But I kind of wanted to bring it back around and just keep it simple and just have one band. I did bring on Vic for this one. And so, yeah, it's going to be a celebration of Halloween, and we have signature drinks. So I have a drink called a Bloodlust, and we're going to have another drink specifically made for just like a Halloween themed. And yeah, it's going to be a dance party mixed with, a band that's really up and coming. And I, truly believe in these guys.
Nice. It's La Santa. And yeah, so before we give them a little preview with the DJ set you're going to do for us, I want to talk to you about what else do you plan on doing for the rest of the year? I feel like you're growing, man. What else, where do you want to see yourself?
For the rest of the year, I do have Substance. I am playing the Darkwave Music Festival.
November 10th?
Substance, yeah. Recently partnered up with Restless Nights, who hosts that festival. And so I'll be DJing the night of November 25th. I'm sorry, November 10th. That's going to have, I know it's going to have Twin Tribes, a host of just like really great bands that I'm super excited to play with. And yeah, this year's really been a blessing, especially the past like 2 months. Again, just putting yourself out there and having content accessible to people. You just never know. You just never know who's going to discover you, who's going to, reach out to you and say, hey, I found you here. I found you there. Like, let's do this. It recently just happened to me with the Lebanon Hanover show.
Yeah.
I had seen this promoter, like his name around, but I wasn't, didn't really know too much of what he was doing. And he said, yeah, I found you. I love what you on TikTok. Do you want to open up for Lebanon Hanover? I said, yeah.
Nice. That's great, man.
And sorry, and for the rest of the year, I mean, I don't know. I feel like right now I'm at a point where like I hit like a pinnacle, so like I got to a certain point, and then I'm just trying to kind of let things air out before I start planning again, like the next year.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. We're always looking forward to, if people want to see what you're doing, they can follow you on Instagram at DORM_ENCE. And yeah, right now we're going to get into it. Are you ready to do the DJ set?
Let's drop it.
All right, we're going to do 35 minutes right now. This is Dôrmencē on The Rodriguez Show.